Welcome to the Thought Brothers. I'm Gary Johnson. We've got the regular host. We've got our guest host with us, Stan Harrison and Colonel Eric Garvin, U.S. Air Force retired. And of course, we have Mr. Spivey, the researcher, CJ, our youth correspondent, who plugs us in where everything we missing. And then Carlos, who just drops money like we don't even worry about. He just drops it like that. But we're going to talk about the 4th of July coming up. And I know on Fox News, they've been really bragging about the long parades and the crowds, the enormous crowd, biggest crowds ever. I saw a video with 7 people out there on the mall. That doesn't seem very big and a lot of them were leaving and they were pissed. They asked them why they were leaving. They said, well, we heard him before. So we'll talk about the 4th of July, and we'll give Brother Garvin a chance to briefly talk about an article that's featured on blackmeninamerica.com called Can America Still Celebrate Together? But my question for you, jumping out the box, is when you think about the 4th of July, what does it mean to you today compared to when you were growing up as a kid? So, Stan, were you that little kid with some sparklers and bottle rockets? Talk to us. What does it
You,
mean to you today compared to?
Gary, you must have known, man. I was that kid that got all excited about the 4th of July, man. The family got together. We barbecued our little hibachi and, tried to string up enough funds to make sure that we had a good time buying fireworks, from the corner market and just doing our thing. But as years have progressed, man, things are much different now than they were back then. The family would get together then. Now, the past few years, I would say, since the declaring Juneteenth as being a federal holiday, 4th of July just doesn't hold that much, if any, relevance to our family. Now we celebrate Juneteenth. We get together as a family and we do those things during Juneteenth. The difference is we're not spending money on things and we're burning, if you will. So no fireworks, just homage to our ancestors, just to make sure that we know where we came from. And again, paying tribute to those that came before us, our ancestors, and make sure that our children understand what they're facing in this America that we live in today.
Okay, thank you, Carlos.
Wow. Yeah, I would say I'm with Stan. I mean, I think since Juneteenth become a national holiday, I think that most African American families spend, focusing on Juneteenth. The 4th of July, I mean, for the significance it holds, okay, is not on the same level as some other holidays that we celebrate throughout the course of the year, Thanksgiving, Christmas, etc. And I think it's still enjoyable. I think if you try to take the 4th of July away as a holiday or Independence Day away, I think people would protest because they're so used to having it. So I think it's still a staple in America, but it doesn't hold the weight it previously did. And I think, based on this year's 250th celebration, you would think that more people would be engaged. But I mean, people are. And I was down on the mall last week, and I was down on the mall actually today. And there are people out, but there are no crowds out there enjoying the 250th celebration or as we lead up to it. So I think it's still a good holiday, but it's just not what it used to be.
Okay, CJ, talk to us.
It hasn't changed. No matter how embarrassing the government or person is running America, it's not going to change the fact that it's just a great opportunity for people to just throw something on the grill, get together with your friends and family, and just celebrate the love of America, the great parts of America, the parts that bring us together, the sports, the like I said, the grilling, the fellowship and things like that. It's not really about, America's birthday or all this stuff. Or like I said, if it was, like you said, there would be more people at that 250 celebration where there were more people at my last gig than were at that pavilion or whatever they're doing.
Okay, Mr. Spivey, you've seen your share of 4th of July's and fireworks. What say you?
Well, personally, I think the times have changed. I can remember the 4th of July when we would get fireworks, cherry bombs, and sparkles and that type and firecrackers. But I think, as CJ said, I think the time has changed. And one of the reasons I think it's changed is because, as I remember the 4th of July, family got together. As family spent a lot of time. Family would even come from out of town. But in this economy and with the rising prices, I don't think you're going to see the travel of people that have gone before. The gas prices are still through the roof and everything else is through the roof. So I think 4th of July is not going to be the same again. And I think it'll be a long time before it gets back to that.
Okay. Eric Garvin, I want to lean over to you, and you can also, if you find a chance, to briefly weave in your article so people can get a sense of that. But it's over to you.
So when I was a kid, I mean, 4th of July was clearly one of my favorite holidays outside of Christmas. But this particular 4th of July, I am not in a celebratory mood at all. In fact, I'm almost in a state of mourning. You know, in the preamble to our Constitution, it talks in there about this pursuit of a more perfect union. And from my perspective, what this Trump administration has done is they've actually put that more perfect union on death row, awaiting execution, right? And when I think about people celebrating, I see that here in my community with flags going up all over the place and tales about celebrating 250 years of freedom. Well, that's an affront to a person like me because I know for my ancestors and our ancestors, we did not share in 250 years of freedom. So that in itself is a contradiction. So you see, and we're going to see this on the 4th of July, this storybook America, where they tell this narrative of America being this beacon of freedom, of liberty, equality, and justice for all. But what you don't hear about is the ugly underbelly of America. All right. And we just look at this administration alone. They're defined by a few things from my perspective. Number one, racism, right? Number two, incompetence. Number three, corruption. And the final one is them consistently using the levers of rage and fear to get people fearful of things. So you just begin looking at their track record. They have declared war on black people. They have declared war on immigrants of color. They have declared war on the poor. They have declared war on the LGBT community. They've declared war on white women. They've declared war on the poor, right? And as blacks, we also recognize that they've taken 60 years of civil rights and rolled those civil rights back to the point where they have defined the primary victim of discrimination in this country nowadays as being whites, right? Which is the furthest thing from the truth. We've seen what they've done with the evisceration of our Voting Rights Act, which was the crowning achievement of the civil rights movement. And so when I think about all those things, right, it is very difficult for me today to actually recite the words of the Pledge of Allegiance because I see them as a fraud and not living up to America's foundational principles and promises. I find it difficult for me to sing the Pledge of Allegiance, right? And I certainly find it very difficult for me to put up a flag, right? Now, I want to tell all of you, I want to be just like the rest of America, right? Where I feel this unbridled patriotism for a country that is fair, that is really promoting equality. But I just do not feel that way. In fact, I feel as if they've done a major retreat from their promise in the Constitution of trying to seek a more perfect union. So that's kind of where I am today.
Okay. On the heels of your comment, I see more and more incidents in social media where white citizens are just emboldened to just do and say whatever they want. And I don't know if you saw one of the January 6th folks that Trump pardoned, who decided he's going to get a couple of his buddies to go outside and hold up a sign, a negative sign about black parents outside of the BET Awards.
Yeah, his name is Jake Lang.
Okay.
He's a known like MAGA instigator.
Yeah. And I don't know if you saw that, but he got his ass beat. You know, I guess he's in the latest chapter of Leave Black People Alone. I don't know if you saw it, but what I'll do is I'll edit that in, see if we can show it now for those of you who may not have seen it. And I definitely would put it in the broadcast. But here is what let me just see if I can share it. It's a real short video. But all right. So we've seen enough of that. When you show up at the BET Awards with a sign like that, what do you expect, Mr. Spivey?
You know, as you said earlier, I've seen a lot of 4th of Julys. What I will say to you is, if that had happened, and I'm sure Eric will agree with me, if that had happened in 1965, he wouldn't have been walking away from there. I mean, they gave him grace. I mean, people kicking at him. He would have been on the ground. Somebody would have had to drag him to an avalanche and take him to the hospital, probably in critical condition. I mean, this kind of stuff, they feel like they have a right because the person who is in charge is perpetuating this racism. And so that's why a lot of these people feel that, I have a get out of jail free card. I mean, when you get a guy who went to jail for an insurrection on the U.S. Capitol, I mean, they got inside one guy, for the lack of a better word, urinated on Nancy Pelosi's desk. And then you get a man who becomes president. And what does he do? He pardons him. So the only thing I'll say is he is lucky this is 2026 and not 1960, because it would have been no way he would have walked away from that.
Okay. Any other reaction?
Just ridiculous, inappropriate, right? He obviously doesn't care. He obviously is evil. He's obviously been raised to think a certain way. And like Mr. Spivey said, if the leader is perpetuating that, and he's already gone to jail for an insurrection, yeah, he probably feels entitled to cause insurrections all across the country and anywhere he goes. So yeah, until there's a change at the top, you're probably going to continue to see lots and lots of those situations. Because even when you have a positive leader, occasionally you always have somebody who just does something outrageous. But in this case, outrageous has become the norm because of our current leadership. So it's very sad, and we just hopefully we look forward to better days coming with better leaders.
And
So,
just continuing the trend of Carlos and Mr. Spivey, I saw a what you call a bumper sticker that read, stop pretending that your racism is patriotism. I thought that was very interesting, and you guys nailed it. Um, this thing is promoted, highly promoted, perpetual racism. This is something that we unfortunately still have to deal with in 2026. We would hope that, and of course, that's been our strategy. Our strategy has been one of hope throughout the diaspora of us searching for freedom, equity, and equality. Unfortunately, this is our reality, and it's going to continue. But I think that we have to do something different. Instead of protesting, instead of just talking about it, we've got to have some type of financial backing that it will cause an economic shift within this society. I think they get to do it because there's no economic backing that prevents it. Once we have the power of economy, and once we begin to control some economic, what I call thoroughfares, I think things will change. But until we get there, things are not going to change. In fact, as we have witnessed and we have demonstrated on this show, things will continue to roll back.
Hey,
Just
Gary, let me
to
Okay.
jump in there real quick for Stan. Stan, you hit the nail on the head too. Somebody once told me people don't listen till you hit them in the wallet.
That's exactly.
Okay.
Right,
It's amazing how Elon Musk was going with the Doge and he's side by side with Trump, and Tesla stock prices started plummeting. And then suddenly they're no longer friends and he's out of there.
right.
Big coincidence. Big coincidence, right? No,
You're
he
right.
got hit in the wallet. He may be the
Yep.
richest man in the world, but he doesn't want to be the second richest man in the world. So he got hit in the wallet, and suddenly he's out of there from Doge. Now, are they still friends behind closed doors? Maybe, but he had to break camp so he wouldn't lose money. So that is the key. Economic power carries a lot of weight, even with the richest people in the world.
for this type of content, the issue is it's almost like Stan said, but the opposite. It's not that there's no economic consequences for it. There's economic incentive for these people to do these things. Like that's why I brought to you guys' attention, I don't know, weeks or months ago, that guy Chud the Builder, who was in Tennessee antagonizing black people for streaming content. And guess who was standing in solidarity at his trial? It was Mr. Jake Lang, who was out there at the BET Awards. So this is like a subgenre of people, of streamers, of content creators, and that is their content. Their content is to go into minority communities, is to antagonize black people or
Yep.
minority people, and to try to get a reaction that proves their thesis that, oh, see, these people are unruly, these people are violent, but trying to self-fulfill that prophecy. And them feeling invincible because the Trump administration is making white men feel invincible with full pardons and things like that. And Chud the Builder mentioned that. He mentioned that if he shot a black person on these streams, that he felt that he would be released because of his privilege, basically, and saying that, but obviously that wasn't the case because he's still sitting in a jail cell for shooting somebody on stream. But this is the issue, that this doomed economy has really gotten people looking to make money any type of way they can, even if it's the most degenerate content that they have to make.
Wow.
CJ, well said, man. And I want to just double back. Our fearless leader, if that's what we want to call him, also said he can go out in the middle of Times Square, shoot someone, and he would not lose a vote. So let's be clear. This is just rhetoric, and it continues to perpetuate itself through the fabric of America. And CJ, thank you, man. You really nailed it when you talked about, hey, this is what these people are doing, and it has become a financial incentive for them to do it. Let's go back a little bit. Let's go back and let's just say 6 months or a year. Charlie Kirk, that's how he made his name. Loud, rhetorical, racist. This is what these people are doing. And we all know what's happening with TPUSA right now. And we know the embarrassment that they faced regarding the takeover of that particular movement. So this is going to continue, and they're creating different facets of this. The question that I beg is, what are we doing?
Yeah, and I just like to join the conversation here and just say this. I heard a few key themes here. One, about the leader setting the example of violence and this racist behavior, right? And they have been in power. The other theme is this normalization of it. It's really quite evident that Trump has definitely normalized this from Charlottesville to the January 6th insurrectionists, where he said, hey, they are patriots and hostages instead of being labeled as criminals and violent protesters going up against the Capitol. So, and Stan makes a really good point, and it reminds me of a Frederick Douglass quote about power not conceding anything without a demand, right? And I think as Stan and the rest of the panel has said here tonight, it's extremely important for us to hit them where it hurts. And more often than not, that is in their pocketbooks. But we sometimes have a difficult challenge of doing that and galvanizing ourselves to make the sacrifice of maybe not shopping at a Target or Amazon, right? Because we've grown accustomed to shopping in those places. But that's really our avenue to really, really striking back at them and making us pay attention to our demands.
Okay.
You know, and let's keep in mind that we talk about the leader. I think it was probably less than a month ago when he got shot down because he was trying to set aside $2.8 billion for these insurrectionists, and he was going to pay these people. And they said a lot of them would become millionaires overnight. And several of them said that they were going to run for Congress once they became millionaires. So, I mean, they feel like they have a blank check to do whatever they want to do. And, you know, the thing that I said before, racism was even worse in the 60s and the 50s, I feel, than it is today. But the racists knew how far they could go. Today, these racists figure they have a blank check to do whatever they want to do.
And
Well,
Mr.
you know,
Spivey, can I interject, right? Because he hit a really hot button with me from a personal standpoint. When they were proposing that $1.8 billion fund to give out to these insurrectionists, these violent insurrectionists, that really, really disturbed me deeply. My son, as all you know, was murdered in Chile. And the Justice Department has this fund, this pot of money that will reimburse you for your expenses associated with your loved one being murdered abroad. Well, I filed all the paperwork, did everything necessary. And literally a week prior to this becoming headline news about this fund, I learned that they had declined my claim, right? So needless to say, that infuriated me. And then the prospects of these unworthy folks receiving this was just deeply infuriating to me and unjust.
wow.
They call it the complexion for protection.
Yes, yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Let me shift the focus to some hot topics. I'm going to let you guys talk about anything that you want for the next couple of minutes. I mean, what we have, we got LeBron out here, we got the World Cup, we got the economy. We got a bunch of things out there. Carlos, what's on your mind, man? You got a couple minutes.
I'll tell you this. Again, I'm still happy the New York Knicks won the championship this year. Okay. I ordered my New York Knicks championship hat, and they said it won't arrive to August. I guess 8 million people in the city of New York also ordered the same hat, but I'm happy with that. I am looking forward to, I guess you could say, this upcoming basketball season because the Wizards got the #1 pick. So we have some hope in Washington again. They got the young man, was it AJ from BYU? They got the young man. I mean, I went down to the introduction on the wharf last week and seemed like he's a real nice guy. And I'm still thinking to myself, man, 19 years old with all that money and all that responsibility. I'm like, I wish him well, and I'm sure his family, it looks like they're really supportive. And, I think this year's draft class is going to be in much better position as young men than most draft classes for the simple reason that when they all got announced this year, all of them had their families beside them instead of their girlfriends. So I think that's a good sign. So with that being said, I think that hopefully sports is still a good way for us to get away from politics, even though the owner of the Knicks is a Trump supporter. Okay, all right, we leave that one alone. But I think we have to, take that 2 hours to 3 hours for our favorite sporting event. What, regardless of what it is, basketball, baseball, football, whatever the case may be, and just try to enjoy it. Try to get away from reality. And for 2 or 3 hours, the only thing that really matters in your life is whether your favorite team wins. Okay. And I think if we continue to have some outlets away from everyday craziness, that'll help us get through because things were always crazy, right? We just live in an age where things are crazy and we can get the news in a flash because everybody's on social media. Somebody's got every cell phone is a camera and a video camera. It can be transmitted. But so I think if you consume anything too much, it can be bad for you. So I think we have to be aware of what's happening, but also remember not to consume too much. Take it bite by bite, and use sports as a way to maybe get away a little bit. And we'll see where LeBron lands. That's all I got this
Okay.
week.
All right, CJ, what's on your mind?
I can start with some sports and then hit politics real quick. Like I said, for sports, like I said, we could just talk about the NBA. Offseason's been crazy. Jaylen Brown was just traded a couple hours ago to the Philadelphia 76ers for Paul George and some draft picks. Kawhi Leonard was traded yesterday back to the Raptors. As Carlos said, LeBron is leaving the Lakers, and the Lakers just signed Austin Reeves to a big contract, and then they signed Walker Kessler to a $130 million contract. So the Lakers going forward with three white guys which is I've never seen that in the modern NBA. Just three white guys taking up your payroll going forward. But all right, we'll see if they can do something with that. Giannis has been traded to the Heat. There's been all types of crazy moves going. John Morant was traded to the Portland Trailblazers. So we're having a crazy offseason right now. Lots of player movement. It's very exciting. So we'll see where that goes. And then to the less fun stuff, if we're going to get into politics, I'll start with the Republican side. It's this week has been mostly about Donald Trump's financial disclosures, as he disclosed that he made over $2 billion in crypto just this term alone while sitting in office. He started a crypto firm 4 days before the inauguration, and then it turns out every investor that invested in that crypto coin basically lost all their money, and Donald Trump profited an insane amount while all the investors were left just hosed completely. Very Trump-like. They tried to end birthright citizen this week in the Supreme Court randomly, just even though that's should be huge news, but they're trying to get rid of birthright citizenship through the Supreme Court, even though Marco Rubio is a birthright citizen. It's ridiculous, and things that have been in our Constitution forever, but they're trying to get rid of that. Donald Trump has made more stock trades than Nancy Pelosi by 1,000 times. And so the people that complained about Hunter Biden and Nancy Pelosi, that level of corruption pales in comparison to what Trump has openly disclosed. So we don't even know about the behind the door, the quid pro quos. He's been giving out pardons for basically profit. You can pay for a pardon, you can pay for a government contract. So he's basically just opened the government up to full corruption. And it is showing in the financial disclosures as he's, again, they made Jimmy Carter sell his peanut farm, but Donald Trump is sitting here making billions and billions of dollars, cutting deals with UAE, with Jared Kushner and them. He's cutting deals, giving different countries access to rare minerals and different things. And it's the most corrupt we've ever seen. Meanwhile, American workers' share of the nation's income is at the lowest point that it's been in 80 years. So the workers are seeing less profits trickle down to them, while the corporations and people like Donald Trump are just making insane amount of profit. So that's what's going on the Republican side of things. On the Democratic side of things, it's actually quite interesting. We actually have possibly a new kingmaker in the Democratic Party because Zoran Mamdani is cooking with gas in New York City right now. I just got back from New York this weekend. Very popular guy up there right now. In New York City, closed their deficit. He got them the free childcare. He got them the rent freeze. Basically, all the things they said were impossible that he promised, he's already done in his term. So he's done things like getting free World Cup tickets to people in New York City, more free public bathrooms, more free fun activities for people in New York. So he's showing both Democrat and Republican leadership what is actually possible when someone actually, tries to win. But the more interesting part about that is he had three long shot candidates who had incumbent races. They all won those races. All these Democratic Socialists of America, they're winning all the incumbent races against these long sitting Democrats. And it's really got the party spooked. Where there's a report that this week that Gavin Newsom called Zoran Mamdani to try to get on his good side and see, where the magic sauce was. Kamala Harris reportedly reached out to Zoran Mamdani to talk about her future run and how she could get. And he had two more long shot candidates that won their races against some incumbents who've been sitting in those seats for years. So what we're seeing in the Democratic Party is their Tea Party moment, finally, is where they have incumbent candidates who are tired of watching the party lose. They have the same leadership that lost to Donald Trump repeatedly, the Chuck Schumers, the Hakeem Jeffries, the people that just take belt to ass every election, but they keep their power. And now the candidates that they said were I want to use Richie Torres's words. He said Mickey Mouse primary challengers. Well, those Mickey Mouse primary challengers are winning these races now, and they're going to be sending these Democratic Socialists to the Senate. And these candidates are extremely popular right now. As I just mentioned, how capitalism is not really working for people right now. So calling socialism and communism this boogeyman is not as effective as it once was, as capitalism is ravaging our country.
Okay. Follow that, Mr. Spivey.
Well, I'm going to tell CJ what he said about me last week. When he said, I'm always one step ahead of him. He got me tonight because that's what I was going to talk about was Mandani. You got me this time. I was going to talk about Mandani and how popular he's becoming. And he's one of the few politicians that I've seen in years who has made promises and kept promises. You always hear me say on this show, when a politician's mouth is moving, whether he's a Republican or a Democrat, he's lying. But this is one guy who has made good on everything that he said he was going to do. And the people in New York, I think, are going to really propel him to move up in the ranks. I would not be surprised if he's not on the ticket for the Democratic Party in 2028. You don't know, but with the things that he's doing right now, he's got a good chance of probably being a nominee. And that may be why Gavin Newsom wants to join on his coattails, because Gavin Newsom wants to run for president in 2028. And Gavin Newsom is a very popular person, but I don't think he's as popular as Mandani right now. On the other side of the coin, as Carlos said, and I laugh every time I've heard it, don't buy a jersey of a current player, because if you do, you're wasting your money. But now, on the other side of the coin, if you're a Dallas Cowboy fan, then you don't have to worry about that, because Jerry Jones brought back Dak. He's bringing back CeeDee Lamb. He's bringing back Pickett. He doesn't do those kind of games. So I'll rest my case right now that the Cowboys, they're solid.
Go ahead, Eric Garvin.
So first, before I say anything, I have to give mad props to CJ, right? Because the first time Mondami got on my radar screen was hearing it through CJ,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And I fully concur that he's really the center of gravity around the Democratic Party. And there's something to be said about, as Mr. Spivey said, a politician who's genuinely concerned about the plight of Main Street, right? And he has that in spades. So I'm thrilled to hear folks like Gavin Newsom are reaching out to him. But before I digress, right? Carlos brought up my New York Knicks. I'm still riding high on my New York Knicks victory. And here's what I'm hoping for. I know that their owner has accepted the invitation to come to the White House without consulting with any of the players. And Brunson responded to that by saying that we as the team have yet to discuss this. I'm hopeful that they will make the right decision and not go like the past several teams have done. Now, the thing that's been dominating the airways in terms of sport has been the World Cup. And it's been really exciting to watch some of these games. I saw we had like 48 teams. And the thing that was a little disturbing to me, you see all these folks of color playing there, but you don't see a whole lot of folks of color in the head coaching ranks. And I think if my memory, if my research is correct, there's 48 teams, and only one of them had a head black coach, and that was a guy from Senegal, right? And I think that is little demoralizing, right? Given all those phenomenal black players you're seeing participate in the World Cup. So that's my take.
Okay.
Eric, I just want to make a comment before Gary goes to the next person. I just got back. I was up in the Shenandoah playing golf for 3 days with some buddies of mine from Virginia Beach, and we were watching the World Cup. And one of the guys said, when Norway was playing, he said, "How many black people in Norway?" The team was loaded with black players. So I just wanted to throw that in because I don't think there's a large majority of black players, people
No.
in Norway.
Yeah.
And
And Mr. Spivey, I mean, you look at France. Okay, France is
That's
a white
another one.
European country, and you remove the black players from the team. I don't think they'd be too competitive, right?
No.
Go ahead,
just to,
CJ.
just to piggyback on some of the stuff you were saying about Zoran, I think not only is he, like said, popular because of the policies and delivering on things, but it's almost like Mr. Spivey alluded to. It's the way he communicates. We haven't had such an effective communicator since Obama in his prime, where he could communicate clearly and not do the politician double speak or do the ambiguous dancing around questions. Somebody who will answer questions clearly, unapologetically. He was in the interview where the interviewer was trying to, demonize him, say, "Oh, the Republicans are trying to make you the face of the Democratic Party," and he said, "Let them, let them. What I'm doing is popular. Everything I'm doing is working. So let them. If they want to make me the poster boy of the party, then go ahead and let them." So that is great to see somebody in moral clarity on the genocide, on all those things. He has been clear from the day, not tap dancing, not changing his stance on anything from day one. So it's great to have, like I said, it's so refreshing to see a politician who can just answer a straight question and to be consistent morally. Like it's unheard of in American politics. Like he's like a foreign entity because we're so used to the lying, double speaking corporate politician.
And
Okay.
CJ, don't forget he bought his own ticket in the nosebleed seats for the playoff game, and somebody else sat in the owner's box.
Yeah.
Mr. Spivey, I noticed right before I come to Stan, I noticed when you were talking about the Cowboys, you had a little bit of glee with their stability, which, I was just thinking, you don't have to turn in your Dak Prescott pajamas. You can still hold on to them. You can still hold on to them another season,
Yeah, I'm good to go.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead, Stan. What's on your mind?
Then, brothers, well said, well said. I'm going to redirect a little bit away from politics, a little bit away from sports. And I want to talk a little bit about these kids that I had the pleasure of presenting to earlier today. I had 39 young males and females that I gave them the opportunity to basically calculate what their net worth was going to be in by age 67. They're at this time FRA. So we talked about the rule of 72. I gave these young kids a project and an assignment, and believe it or not, by the time I returned to my office, 50% of those children had not only responded to me via email, but they actually had the correct answer. So I have to just give a lot of praise to the coordinators of the Upward Brown program here and just thank the kids for their attentiveness. Now, let's be real. They had probably one of the greatest presenters they've ever had in their lifetime. But, enough said about that. But I want to switch gears a little bit because this is something that I've heard, and I know that we may have touched on this subject a little bit, but it came across my mind again this week, and I began to have a conversation with my wife about it. And when the stats came up again, couldn't believe it. So I'm just going to run through the stats a little bit. So this was a conversation that a few scholars were having. They were debating between single father households and single female households and how those compare to households that were both mother and father. So these are the stats of the single female households. The children of those households were 5 times more likely to commit suicide, 9 times more likely to drop out of high school, 10 times more likely to engage in substance abuse, 14 times likely to commit what we call the snuggle struggle, 20 times more likely to end up in prison, 32 times more likely to run away from home, and last but not least, 70% of all teen pregnancies were of single mother households.
Wow.
So I heard those stats again and again. I couldn't believe it, and I had to take a note from Professor Spivey and do a little research. And
Wow.
in my research, I learned that these are real. The Department of Justice did a study back in 2018, and there's been some Harvard studies and some Brown studies and some studies from UCLA. I couldn't believe these stats. And there were some discrepancies whether or not the single father households, how much weight they had, and whether or not, we were really focusing on the stats of those households. But I went back and we confirmed that, in fact, those households were also studied. So it is a fact that single female households or single mother households have these drastically different facts and statistics regarding the results of these children. And that just goes to show, hey, we have a lot of work to do, gentlemen. And I just want to lay that on you guys and say, hey, we just got to do better overall as a country.
Wow. Okay. Here's how I'm going to end the show. We started the show talking about patriotism. We're going to end the show. I want you all to share. I'm going to run the shot clock this time. 2 minutes. The most American thing you've experienced. The most American thing you've experienced. I know that's kind of ambiguous, but I'll start off. I'll jump in this time. And I'm going to put the clock timer on myself. And here we go. The most American thing that I can think of that I've experienced is at the age of 19, I joined the ranks of the Central Intelligence Agency. And I worked my way up through the years as an analyst, as a security professional, special agent, investigator. I did training for them. I did a lot of things for them. I traveled overseas for the agency. I held up my hand. I took that oath to the Constitution. And, to this day, and then when I left, I ended up going back to the CIA as a contractor, as a cleared contractor. So I've got over 3 decades. That's the most American thing that I can think of that I've done and experienced. And that's on me. Carlos, what's the most
Wow.
American thing you've experienced that you can think of?
You know what? I got a couple things. The first thing is when I bought my first house. I'm thinking, wow, I own actually a piece of America, right? Even though it's a small piece, I own a piece. I have a yard that somebody comes into. I can say it's my yard. Please leave my yard. If I want to plant some flowers, I can plant some flowers. If I want to paint the walls, I can paint the walls. So I think that regardless of how hard that dream or possibility is today, still think it's important for people to own a piece of this country. Our ancestors built this country. We have a right to it just as much as anyone else. And I would strongly recommend that everyone try to buy a small piece of America, okay, that they can call their own. The other thing I was going to say was when I was in high school and college, I took ROTC for 3 years, Army ROTC for 3 years in high school, and Air Force ROTC for 1 year in college, right before commitment. And I learned so much from the classes I took, the instructors, the stories. At that time, my instructors all came from Vietnam or all been in Vietnam, and you just you learn an appreciation for some things that in order for us to sleep well at night, people have to go out and do some work that we wouldn't do. And much respect to Colonel Garvin and all the veterans of this country who allow us to be able to sleep at night. So again, even though I didn't do active duty time, the 4 years of 3 of junior ROTC and 1 of senior ROTC gave me a real profound respect and appreciation for patriotism. So that's my take.
Okay. CJ.
I feel like what's more American than rock and roll? And like I said, rock and roll is rock music has taken me to different places in America, and it's allowed me to travel, and it's allowed me to connect and to make money and to, like I said, have all these really unique experiences connecting with people from all walks of America. So that's why I really feel like it's a uniquely American experience, not just to connect with people through music, but through rock music, rock and roll, classic. As a black rock artist too, there's a lot of implications with that of, reclaiming that space that, we originated in terms of, blues and rock and roll and all of that and the history behind that. So I don't think there's anything more American than rock and roll and connecting with people. And it took me from DC to New York City and to connect with so many different people from different walks of life in America and showing that we can all be connected, like I said, through sports and music and through these beautiful things, we can be connected rather than divided. So I feel like that's the most American thing that I've done is make a career in rock and roll.
Okay. Stan.
Um, the most American thing that I experienced is during the Obama administration. I was in a place in my life where I enjoyed quite a bit of international travel. We were in what we call a square at the Czech Republic, and at the time, Obama was extremely popular. And I guess just by the way that I dressed, I someone recognized me as an American and I was asked to take photos with people. I traveled to Egypt. I was asked to take photos with multiple people. Instead of me paying them money to take a photo, they were basically handing me dollars to take photos with me. But one particular time in the Czech Republic, in that square, I was pulled to the side and asked, by a family, could they take a photo with me? And I was perplexed. And then the gentleman, the father, pulled me to the side and said, "Your president stood right here and spoke in our native language." And it gave me the greatest feeling in the world. And I appreciate you as a representative of America. That to me was one of the proud American moments that I've ever had. And I appreciate the professionalism, the diplomacy that our president at that time showed and demonstrated because traveling abroad during different administrations, the results were very different.
Okay. Mr. Spivey.
Well, I have to say that doing my most proud moment was when I was getting ready to graduate from college. I had to do my student teaching, and I did my student teaching at a school called Harry Hunt, and and I was teaching history and English, and there was a lady next door to our classroom who was going on maternity leave, and she was going on maternity leave about 45 days before I was about to graduate. And she liked me so much that she said she was going to stick it out for 45 days and she pulled some strings. So I graduated on Friday at the same school on Monday. I went to work teaching next door to where I did my student teaching for 12 weeks. And I was at home with my parents. They didn't charge me any rent or anything. Every dime I made, I saved it up that year teaching normally. And I bought my first house and I was 22 years old. And I kept that house for 5 years and I ended up selling it to the government for double what I had paid for it. And I built my own house on the lake back in a place called Lake Forest. And so that was my most proud American moment.
Okay. Eric Garvin.
So mine's is not a personal story. This is a story about someone else. And I would just say this, one of my guiding principles throughout life is always believing in something bigger than myself. And Gary, you epitomize that more than anyone I know in our community here in Palm Coast. But what I would say, I want to share a story about Dr. Fauci. In early 2000, he went to the White House. He gave a presentation to President Bush. It was a proposal for a $500 million proposal to fund the transmission or stopping the transmission from the HIV virus from mother to child. Well, before Fauci could leave the White House, Bush pulled him to the side and says, "Hey, I want to do something bigger than that. I want to make this a game changer for humanity," right? So he says, "I want to do $15 billion." And at a future State of the Union address in January of 2020, January 2003, President Bush announced a $15 billion initiative to fund that. That program was called PEPFAR, Presidential Emergency Program for AIDS Relief. As of 2024, that program was credited to saving over 25 million people's lives in sub-Saharan Africa, right? And it's such a wonderful story because you see Bush on one side of the political aisle and Dr. Fauci on the other side of the political aisle and how they were able to come together. And we often talk about America being this beacon of light, this shining city on the hill. That's a good example of a shining city on the hill. But unfortunately, we're back to the negative side with the Trump administration. When they dismantled USAID, that program went away. And now they're predicting upwards to 22 million people to lose their lives, and 70 to 75% of those will come from sub-Saharan Africa. So I just love that story because it talks about the goodness of America, what we can be versus what we are, right?
Wow. You know, you remind me, Eric, when I was a consultant, I was a consultant for NIH, a lot of the agencies up there, the institutes up there, and Fauci was one of them back in the late 90s. And, you know, they were headquartered up in Bethesda, Maryland, had a mostly white staff, but they were going to open up a clinic in inner city DC. And Fauci knew that his staff was not prepared to go into inner city DC, where they had different cultures, different people with like homeless people, people with mental diseases, people who would just come in off the street, you know. And I was working for a company that with actors, and we were able to create scenarios to prepare his staff for what they would likely encounter. And Fauci was really serious about this, that if we're going to open up a clinic in the city, I want my people to be comfortable. I want to be comfortable with the residents so we can make a difference and an impact. And so I can't say enough about him. And of course, what Trump put him through was just ridiculous. But Trump does that to everybody. So, but he's a real American patriot as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Agree.
No doubt about it. Gentlemen, you all did not disappoint. We were all over the map. We brought it right back home. When people watch this show, there's a lot to digest and process. So I thank you all again. And you know what? I'm Gary Johnson for these Thought Brothers. And until next week, we're out of here. Thank you.